Gohar Shahi Marhaba. In 2007, 63 members of Messiah Foundation International fled from their homeland, Pakistan, and they arrived in India, and they were seeking asylum. They staged a protest against Pakistani government and its inclination towards strict Wahhabi Sharia, and of course apostrophe law given to their belief system. There was a very strong growing fear that they would be granted death penalty for their belief system, which is not Islam. In 1980, His Divine Eminence, Lord Ra Riaz Gohar Shahi, who had been in vigorous spiritual retreat in the forests of Lal Bagh, Sevan Sharif, in the province of Sindh, Pakistan. In 1979, following a conversation with God, His Holiness Gohar Shahi, who thought and decided to live in those forests as a hermit forever, and His Holiness Gohar Shahi recollected that he never thought of going back into the world and live a worldly life. Soon after, His Holiness Gohar Shahi came out from the forests of Lal Bagh. He made a makeshift hut in front of Jam Shoro textbook board. And he spent a considerable amount of time in that makeshift hut. Later on, His Holiness Gohar Shahi moved to an area called Latifabad in Hyderabad, Sindh. And His Holiness Gohar Shahi then started to raise awareness of spiritual sciences, Sufi doctrine, among followers of all different denominations and sects in Islam. His Holiness Gohar Shahi initially contacted the religious scholars, considering they had a little knowledge. It would be easier for them, relatively, to understand what Gohar Shahi had to say to them in regards to spirituality and Sufi doctrine. However, as His Divine Eminence Lord Ra Riaz Gohar Shahi recollected, the religious scholars were somehow or other disinterested in Sufi doctrine, although they seemingly maintain to proclaim that they are religiously very firm believer in Sufi doctrine and sainthood. But when it came to adopting Sufi doctrine practically and an invitation of self-mortification, self-denial, purification of the self and purification of the heart was extended to them, they came up with a very hypocritical and diplomatic answer. In a nutshell, they practically refused to adopt Sufi doctrine, although they maintained to say that they believe in Sufi doctrine and they believe in sainthood. His Holiness Gohar Shahi then invited the young generation, considering they're still not that sinful and they have lively hearts, and the layers of sins which everybody has on hearts, especially the youth, given the fact that they're still in their 20s, in their 30s, they wouldn't have sinned as much as those have done who were in their 50s and 60s. And His Holiness Gohar Shahi said, the youth duly accepted the invitation from His Holiness Gohar Shahi, and they embraced His Holiness Gohar Shahi's call, and they started to practice spirituality. Sufis are famous for extending love and peace to members of all religions and all faiths. A Sufi can sit with a Hindu and would not hate to eat with him. A Sufi can sit with a Christian, respect his religion, respect his culture, but at the same time will not manifest any negative influence or any negative attitude. A Sufi embraces all religions, all people. But His Holiness Gohar Shahi and his message was more than just a message of Sufi doctrine, an extraordinary message. It was not simply a traditional Sufi message. It was something beyond the intelligence of a religious scholar. It was beyond spiritual intelligence of a religious scholar. The message of His Holiness Gohar Shahi was so broad and so generous that even a dedicated sinner failed to make an excuse. Because His Holiness Gohar Shahi did not ask anybody to leave anything to practice Sufi doctrine. There were no buts and ifs, there were no conditions. There was no prerequisite for anybody to come into the fold of Sufi doctrine. People who were alcoholic and who thought that they were not able to quit drinking, His Holiness Gohar Shahi said, never mind, I'm not asking you to quit alcohol. You drink alcohol and at the same time, I'm just giving you a simple spiritual methodology whereby you are to concentrate upon your heart and you will absorb the light of God's name. And as soon as God's name starts to articulate in the chambers of your heart, as a result of this repetitive invocation of God's name inside your heart, divine light will start to be produced and generate. And that divine light will then mix in your bloodstream, rendering blood to become entwined with the divine energy. And when the blood is purified and the blood is oxygenated with the divine energy, any impurity which you might accumulate as a result of drinking alcohol or eating food which is not allowed in your religion to eat, all sorts of impurities will be thrown out because the blood is now purified. Because the blood is now controlled by the divine energy. And this is exactly what happened. People who were alcoholic, who would not sleep without alcohol when their hearts were initiated by His Holiness Gohar Shahi. A few weeks later, they came and they were not holding a bottle of alcohol. And a beautiful smile was dancing on the lips of His Holiness Gohar Shahi. Knowing everything what has happened, even asked, "You're not drinking alcohol anymore? What happened?" And the guys would say, "Sarkar, every time I want to drink alcohol, I throw up. I don't know what's wrong." And then His Holiness Gohar Shahi would explain to them what was going on. And His Holiness Gohar Shahi would tell them, "You're throwing up any impure thing because your blood is now purified." This was something extraordinary. I would call it Sufi Doctrine plus. Because in Sufism, the grand Sheikh of all Shayukh, is Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And he is the one who sets the rule in spirituality. He is the one without the permission of whom an individual cannot be awarded sainthood. And the grand Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani goes, "You will not be initiated into spirituality until even the last bite of prohibited food in your body is removed completely." Now this is Sufism. In order to adopt Sufi doctrine, you need purification first. By this token, those who have become habitual drinker, who have developed a habit of drinking alcohol, and now alcohol is in their blood, and they cannot quit alcohol simply because they are afraid they cannot be able to cope with the withdrawal effects of alcohol. Such individuals would have been deprived. Such individuals would have been left deprived, even if their master would have been the grand Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So in Sufi doctrine, before you are actually initiated into spirituality, you have to go through a vigorous form of austerity, self-mortification, denial of the self, self-negation. You spend at least 12 years in hermitage under auspicious supervision of a spiritual master. But today nobody wants to go to a jungle and live a life of hermitage for 12 years. You have to go through a lot of physical turmoil, physical endurance. You quit your family, you leave your home, you leave your cozy bed, you leave everything. You make jungle your abode. You have to be patient with the weather. You have to be patient with any scorpions and snakes and all sorts of different insects that might come in your way and bite your blood off, bite your flesh off. And then after 12 years of vigorous austerity, vigorous self-denial, you will be accepted as a novice in spirituality. So, spiritual doctrine, admission into spirituality is not for everyone. It is for those only who are determined, no matter what, I must become a Sufi, and I can sacrifice all my comforts, all my luxuries, and I can temporarily quit my family, and I will make jungle my abode, and I can be patient with any hardship. But this kind of determination is not to be found these days because people do not want to love God. What people have on their mind is comfort and luxury of the world. We're living in such a society where demand for becoming godly, where want and desire of loving God is almost zero, zilch, nothing. So realistically speaking, Sufi doctrine, which is the prime knowledge, which is the knowledge of eminence, with the help of which knowledge you will walk upon the divine pathway which was granted to Prophet Adam. But it's not for everybody. It's for dedicated practitioners of hardship. Not every Tom, Dick and Harry can become a Sufi. You have to go through a lengthy process of self-mortification, purification of the ego, purification of the self. Forget about any religion. If you think some religion will straighten up the crooked people, that's daydreaming. Not even spiritual doctrine can straighten up anybody today. This is because people have lost desire, have lost the want of God's love and God's nearness and God's proximity. People want luxury. People want comfort. People have become so intolerant. It's not that people want to become billionaire or millionaire overnight. I have seen people sitting among these people who want to become a saint of God overnight. You can't become a father or a mother overnight. It takes 9 months for the baby to grow in the belly of the mother. You cannot become a billionaire or a millionaire or a saint of God overnight. But the thought process of people have changed. They want expressway in every walk of life, expediation. They want to expedite the process of spirituality. Last year, we went to Orlando, Florida, and we went to Universal Studios, and we bought the tickets. And every ride we went to, there were 400-500 people in the queue. And then Amjad said to me, wait, let me get some express tickets. $40 more for the express ticket for one ride. And when we got the tickets for the express entry, even in that queue, there were about 150 people. Because of the inventions and scientific revolution, the thought process of human beings have changed dramatically. They want to apply the same rule to everything, even to spirituality. It's like a baby. Look, when a 3-year-old, 4-year-old baby sees a 10-year-old, 12-year-old girl, and she complains, oh, she has long hair. How come I don't have long hair? She's older than you. That's why she has long hair. But Daddy, you said, I'm older. I'm not a baby anymore. I'm a kid. I want to have long hair. I want to have long hair. You cannot convince her. She doesn't understand. She wants to have everything overnight. But this is not just a baby. Everybody in this world has the same thought process today. They want to become, Data Ali Hajweri overnight. They want to become Ghaus-e Azam overnight. They want to become Bu Ali Qalandar overnight. Spirituality is not easy. Having said all this, I want to tell you, if you think any religion can help you today, you are daydreaming. Not even spiritual doctrine can help you today because of its rules and regulations, because of its established methodology. The established methodology which has been practiced for centuries. There was no Sufi who became a Sufi simply because he used to go to a mosque 5 times a day. There is no Sufi who became a Sufi without spending some time in a jungle. There is no Sufi who became a Sufi without going through process of self-mortification, self-denial, and purification of the ego. It is not possible. You must go to a jungle to purify your nafs. This is the rule and regulation of the established Sufi doctrine. The same Sufi doctrine which was practiced by Imam Abu Hanifa, rahmatullah alayh. Same Sufi doctrine practiced by Hasan Basri radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Same Sufi doctrine practiced by Grand Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And every other saint, whether it be Khwaja Gharibun Nawaz, Khwaja Gesu Daraz, or Amir Khusro, or Nizamuddin Auliya, or Baba Farid, or Data Ali Hajveri. All these spiritual dignitaries had to go through this process of self-denial and self-purification. But today, you do not want to go to a jungle. Number 2, there is no spiritual master. Of course, there are many. In Pakistan, in every nook and cranny, there is Shamsh Tariqat and, son of Vilayat and son of Haqiqat and Tariqat and Ma'arifat. But they have, the highest of Sufi ranks. Fabricated one. In my language, we call them Dabba Peer. Canned saint. Those tuna fish can. His Holiness Gohar Shahi introduced a newer form of Sufi doctrine. And this proves that His Holiness Gohar Shahi is Imam Mahdi. Because the type of changes in spirituality that His Holiness Gohar Shahi has brought about, this spiritual freedom was not even given to any prophet, or not even given to Grand Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani radiallahu ta'ala anhu. The spiritual exemption, the exemption of going into jungle, the exemption of purification of the self. The fact that in the light of Gohar Shahi's Sufi doctrine, you don't have to purify your nafs forehand. You can be accepted and initiated into spirituality. And whilst your heart is being purified, His Holiness Gohar Shahi will make sure at the same time your nafs is purified also. Now this is great. This spiritual exemption was not granted to anyone. Anyone, barring none. This alone is enough to prove the fact that His Holiness Gohar Shahi is the awaited Imam Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam. Well, you will see many pseudo-claimants. Oh, my Sheikh is Imam Mahdi, and my Sheikh is Imam Mahdi, and this is Imam Mahdi, and that is Imam Mahdi. But this is just a hocus pocus. There is no reality. Right? Prophet Muhammad said, God has given to me 3 types of knowledge. Knowledge number 1 for common folks. Knowledge number 2 for the elite. Knowledge number 3 for myself only. Right? And then, in the absence of the knowledge of the heart, you can become a Muslim, but you cannot become a Mu'min. And if you do not become a Mu'min, then all your salat, then all your fasting, all your obligatory worship is futile, not acceptable in the eyes of God. So what are you doing without becoming a Mu'min? You can't practice Islam. When you cannot become a Mu'min, just look what Quran says. Salat was made obligatory upon mu'mineen, not Muslimeen. Fasting was made obligatory upon mu'mineen, not Muslimeen. And those idiots who were complaining and who were objecting on my sentence that there is no Islam without Prophet Muhammad, I invite them to study this hadith from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whereby he said, "La yu'minu ahadukum hatta akuna ahabba ilayhi min walidihi wa waladihi wan nasi ajma'in." You cannot become a Mu'min. It's not about one person or two. This message goes to all people who want to be a true Muslim. This is for everybody, including the household of Prophet Muhammad, including the companions of Prophet Muhammad. La yu'minu ahadukum. Ahadukum. Not even one of you can become Mu'min. Ahadukum tells us that this law applies to all people. Whether you are a cousin of Prophet Muhammad, or you are a daughter of Prophet Muhammad, or you are anybody else in any relationship with Prophet Muhammad. This rule applies to everybody. You will become a Mu'min only when you love Prophet Muhammad more than your parents and then the entire humanity. So when you cannot become a Mu'min without loving Prophet Muhammad more than anybody else in the world, is it not justified to say that Islam does not exist without Prophet Muhammad's love? So without becoming a Mu'min, your salat is gone. Even though you go to a mosque 5 times a day and stand there in qiyam and sujood, it's all useless. Because Prophet Muhammad said, La salat illa bi huzuril qalb. Salat is not accepted without the presence of the heart in salat. And Imam Mahdi is the savior of humanity. Imam Mahdi is unifier. I invite all these groups, these Wahhabis, Taliban and ISIS and Ahmadis, before you think your leader is Imam Mahdi, listen to me carefully. Do you think Prophet Muhammad and God would send somebody as Imam Mahdi who cannot turn you into a Mu'min? Because half of the rituals of the worship were addressed to Mu'mineen, not Muslimeen. And what kind of Imam Mahdi is Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani when he did not have the knowledge of turning his followers into Mu'mineen as per Quran? And what about Taliban? They think Mullah Omar is Imam Mahdi. They think Abu Bakr Baghdadi al-Bastard is Imam Mahdi. Imam Mahdi is not coming to cut the throats of people. Imam Mahdi is coming to connect people with God, connect man with men, and then men to God. Peace and love will prevail with the auspicious presence of Imam Mahdi in this world. How can God send somebody as Imam Mahdi who does not have even second type of knowledge which was given to the elite of Ummah, with the help of which their salat and their som would reach God? What kind of Imam Mahdi is Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani? What kind of Imam Mahdi is Mullah Umar, or what kind of Imam Mahdi is Abul Bakr Baghdadi? When they do not have the presence of heart, when their heart is not initiated with God's light. أَفَمَنْ شَرَحَ اللَّهُ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. And whosoever's chest, whosoever's sadr is open by God, so that he absorbs Islam in his chest, that person is granted God's light. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْقَاسِيَاتِ قُلُوبِهِمْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. And doomed and destroyed are those in the hearts of whom God's name does not enter. فَأُولَٰئِكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Whether or not you are misguided depends on your heart. If your heart is able to absorb God's name, you are mu'min. If your heart rejects God's name, there is no doubt that you are destroyed and you are misguided. Whether or not you pray or you go to a mosque will not determine your faith. What will determine your faith is the acceptance or non-acceptance of Isme Zat in your heart. Sarkar Imam Mahdi Gohar Shahi has brought down the knowledge of the heart, which removes layers of sins from your heart. The knowledge of the heart, which illumines your heart with God's light. And His Holiness Gohar Shahi said, knowledge of Sharia hardens the heart. Knowledge of tariqah, knowledge of spirituality will soften the heart. And it is quite evident today. All these individuals who call themselves Islamic State and Taliban and Al-Qaeda, look, they practice Islamic Sharia and see how hard they are by their heart. They're chopping heads off innocent people. They're killing innocent human beings. They're holding machete and guns and they're just shooting people and killing them. How hard they are by their heart. This is the proof that His Holiness Gohar Shahi is Imam Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam. And all the followers of His Holiness Gohar Shahi all over the world, which consist people of many different religions, they don't hate anybody. They love entire humanity. They love entire humanity. Whether you commit adultery, or you drink alcohol, or you're a gay, His Holiness Gohar Shahi and his doors are open to all. Because faith has to do with the soul, not your body. If your body is gay, it is not going to affect on your heart, on the relationship between you and God. Whether you have committed adultery will not determine your relationship between your soul and your God. We have no problem with gays. We have no problem with people who commit adultery. We have no problem with people who dance. We have no problem with people who don't follow any religion. We have no problem with people who are atheist. We're simply extending message of love and peace to all human beings of earth, whether they are straight or they are gay, whether they have a sexual relationship with their wife or their partner, whether they practice a religion or they don't practice any religion at all, whether they believe in God or they don't believe in God at all. We want to benefit humanity. Spiritual benefit, with the help of which your mind will become sound, your heart will become sound, your soul will become sound. Sufi Doctrine Plus. And Sufi doctrine is not going to produce results today. Because in Sufi doctrine, prerequisite is purification of the self, which is the hardest thing to do in spirituality. If Imam Mahdi Gohar Shahi came to this world with this condition, with this precondition, okay, I will bless you if you go and stay in the jungle for 12 years, then Imam Mahdi's advent will not please anybody. I mean, if this message was given to me, okay, you want to see Sarkar Gohar Shahi? Yes. All right. Go to jungle. Stay there for 12 years. Most probably I will keep quiet and would not retaliate. But when I would come back home, I would forget about it. Come on, man. Why should I go to a jungle? If Imam Mahdi were holding a flag with this prerequisite on it, with this precondition on it, the condition which is a must in Sufi doctrine, then Imam Mahdi's advent will not please anybody, will not benefit anybody, because nobody wants to go and live in a jungle for 12 years. Imam Mahdi has come with a lot of exemptions, with a bundle of glad tidings. No conditions. Whoever you are, wherever you are, however you are, if you want to love God, close your eyes. Look at the moon. If you don't want to look at the moon, visit a website, look at the face of Gohar Shahi and whisper the name of God 3 times, after which Gohar Shahi promises to supervise you until you reach God. You cannot call it Sufi doctrine. Sufi doctrine is not as generous as Goharian philosophy of divine love. Now, with this doctrine whereby, this doctrine of His Holiness Gohar Shahi, in which there are no conditions, when this was promoted in Pakistan, the religious scholars were unable to grasp the meaning of this spiritual divine generosity, and they became hostile and they started to denounce His Holiness Gohar Shahi's teachings, and they became so hostile that they declared the followers of Imam Mahdi Gohar Shahi as rigid infidels. Life was becoming more and more difficult for the followers of His Holiness Gohar Shahi. They practiced love and peace and enlightenment of the heart, gave their heart and soul so much awareness of spirituality that they started to respect all prophets, all messengers, and all saints. Not just saints in Islam, but the saints in Hinduism, saints in Sikhism, saints in Christianity, saints in Judaism. I give you an example by His Holiness Gohar Shahi's book, whereby His Holiness Gohar Shahi said, the true explanation of a friend of God, His Holiness Gohar Shahi said, if people believe somebody to be a saint of God for whatever reason, maybe he worked a miracle or he did something extraordinary and some people started to believe that this individual is a saint of God, and you have a problem or you have an issue and you think this man is not a Muslim, this man is a sinner, therefore I don't think he's a saint of God, right? But His Holiness Gohar Shahi advises his followers, do not reject or dismiss anybody's claim of sainthood just because you think he's a Hindu, he cannot be a saint of God. Just because you think he's a Christian, he cannot be a saint of God. No. God can grant sainthood to anybody. To a Muslim, to a Hindu, to a Christian, to a Jew, to anybody. Do not ever dismiss a claim made by any individual who come from any religion. Look at the beauty of his message. Look how broad his message is and how generous he is and how vast his mental approach is. His Holiness Gohar Shahi thinks God can grant any man to be his saint. He's not going to ask you whether or not God should award somebody to be a saint of God. So we are being taught by His Holiness Gohar Shahi to respect all religions. We are being taught by His Holiness Gohar Shahi that even a Hindu can be a saint of God. Even a Christian, even a Catholic can be a saint of God. Even a Jew who lives in Israel can be a saint of God. And this fills our heart with respect for all human beings. These hearts tamed by His Holiness Gohar Shahi, these hearts purified by His Holiness Gohar Shahi, can never accumulate intolerance, can never accumulate hatred for any individual, whether that individual practices any religion or he's an atheist. We do not discriminate in dispensing love to human beings. Whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Jew, or whether you're an atheist, our love does not know discrimination. Our love is free from any religious or spiritual prejudice. Our love for human beings is genuine and sincere and is based on purification of mind, purification of the soul, purification of the heart. But when this doctrine of love started to gain attention of people in Pakistan, the sectarian elements, especially the Salafi and Wahhabi movements in Pakistan, who are funded, sponsored, and taken care of by Saudi Arabia, they became very hostile to the message of His Holiness Gohar Shahi and to Gohar Shahi himself. And you know what they said? Saudi Arabia said, Wahhabis said, if Gohar Shahi sets his foot in Saudi Arabia, God forbid, he may be assassinated. I mean, this was the intensity of their enmity against His Holiness Gohar Shahi. Because of this reason, that His Holiness Gohar Shahi's message is so broad, beautiful. And it is for all human beings, without any religious prejudice, without any bias, without any discrimination. Pakistani Muslim turned against his followers and him. 63 members from the group of Gohar Shahi fled from Pakistan, arrived in India. And in order to make sure that they are not sent back to Pakistan, They set their passports on fire, for which they had to stay in Tihar jail for 4 years, after which United Nations issued them with refugee status, and United States of America and Canada accepted them. And now they are in the United States of America and Canada. And this was in 2007. Our members were in Tihar jail in New Delhi. And we were running from one country to another. We were just going to Geneva like we were going to a corner shop for a bottle of milk. We went to United States many times, and we met Nina Shaya, who used to be in the State Department. And when we held a round of talks with them, Nina Shaya gave me this book, Radical Islam. And this book has authentic information. This book was published by Freedom House Center for Religious Freedom and edited by Paul Marshall and forward by James Woolsey. Were published in the United States of America. I'm going to read a few pages from this book, but in order to tell you who we are, I had to speak for 40 minutes. But I think this did not go into vain, and you understand what I said. According to Wahhabis, as we just read from the book, that Wahhabi doctrine directly contradict with Quran and mainstream traditional Islam. And the aim of Wahhabi Sharia is to derive traditional Islam from the Quran and destroy it. According to Wahhabis, if you do not offer salat and you do not observe Saum, you are kafir. In their eyes, your belief will be judged on your actions, not on your intentions. And according to Prophet Muhammad, innamal amalu bin niyat. According to Prophet Muhammad, your actions will be judged on your intentions. And according to them, your intentions will be judged on your actions. Quite the opposite. Number two, they do not accept that they need Prophet Muhammad as wasila, intermediary, or any saint. They don't accept it. And Abdul Wahab Najdi says, there is nothing that distinguishes Prophet Muhammad from any other common man. There is nothing that distinguishes Prophet Muhammad from any other common man. He is like any other common man, God forbid. Sarkar maaf farmaye. And he thinks that he has exceeded Prophet Muhammad in piety. अब्दुल वहाब नजदी कंजर के बच्चे का ये यानी अकीदा है हरामजादे का कि वो मोहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह से भी आगे बढ़ गया है तक़वे में. And he is not the only one. There is an Indian scholar, Ashraf Ali Thanvi. He said he saw in a dream that Prophet Muhammad was limping on Pul Sirat and he saved Prophet Muhammad from falling down. कि जी उन्होंने नाउज़ बिल्ला माज़ल्ला नक़ल कुफ़र नबाशद कि उन्होंने हुजूर को पुल सिरात से गिरने से बचाया. And there is one of their scholars, Abdul Rashid Gangohi. In his book Taqwatul Iman, he said, if you are in salat and a thought of Prophet Muhammad crossed your mind, your salat is fasid, gone. Your salat is impure. And in order to nullify the effects of the thought of Prophet Muhammad, think about a donkey. This is, extremely blasphemous to Prophet Muhammad. Wahhabis are like dedicated enemies of Prophet Muhammad. Now, they say, if a Muslim does not offer salat and he does not observe Saum, Ramadan, he should be killed. And his property should be forfeited. And his women, mother, wife, daughters, sisters, they should be taken from them, and Wahhabis can rape them. It is permitted for them to do it. This is Wahhabi belief system. You think they are Muslims? You think they're even human beings? They are bastards. The world needs to know more about Wahhabism in order to know who the terrorists are.
Aura TV. Guidance brought to you